Despacito.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality.
Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to another Best Coast Comics. I am one of your co-hosts, Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by the ever-wary
Bigby McFly, the Comic Cat.
Hey, great to have you here, Big B. Welcome to the show, everybody in chat. As I mentioned, this is Best Coast Comics. This is a show where we talk about a fun topic, usually every week, or we have a fun guest. This week, it's going to be a fun topic. We talk about comic book news. We recap goings-on that are happening in the comic book scene. Another great show coming your way this week as well. Do want to take a second to let everybody know that we are streaming on multiple channels right now. So not only can you watch on the Bronze Age Nerd channel, which is my channel, you can also watch on Bigby McFly's channel over on YouTube. That link is in the description below, and as well as the EXP, which we are streaming on their YouTube page, their Twitch page, their Facebook. I'm probably free. IG, that's another network they're streaming on as well. So lots of places where you can watch them. Their link is in the description below. As Richard was pointing out, and this was very nice of him to point out, I am 60 subs away from 5K. That's really cool. We'll get there one day. It's just kind of that elusive number for me. However, I know somebody is a little bit closer to another milestone. Isn't that right, Big B?
I'm like 20 away from like 1600, but it keeps I keep going up a couple and down a couple. I don't know.
That's what I keep doing. You know, I saw a little bit of a boost as we went to Heroes for Heroes, and then I think YouTube purges inactive accounts. Also, here's a little fun fact. You might be unsubscribed from some of your favorite channels, including mine or Big B's or the EXP. It likes to occasionally unsubscribe you from channels that you should be subscribed to. So if you want to be subscribed and get all those notifications, never hurts to check, right?
Right. That's true. I've had friends where I'm like, why am I not getting your stuff? And then all of a sudden I look and I go, why am I never unsubscribed to you, but I'm unsubscribed? So
I think everybody knows, I don't push subscribers. It's not my big thing. And more power to the people that do. I have no problem with that. I just want you to want to be subscribed on your own. That's kind of my philosophy. But I've had several people actually tell me, including Kyle, my old co-host on this time slot, or close to this time slot for Devil's Advocates. He mentioned that he looked at my page and he's like, that's weird. I'm unsubscribed from you. And I know I was subscribed to you. That's, so YouTube, does do that kind of stuff. So it's just something we're checking out.
Yeah, for sure.
Hijinks.
Hey, while we're talking about that kind of stuff, if you guys saw my video about memberships, get in there. We're going to have that thing on the 15th.
Yeah, there's gonna be some pretty cool stuff that if you're a member on Bigby McFly's channel, you're gonna possibly get really rewarded for that. So you might want to go check that out. As of right now, it's a pretty small pool of people that might be eligible for some fun stuff.
The odds are very good.
May the odds be ever in your favor. We do need to say hi to everybody who hopped in, and that includes saying hi to the first, as usual, GT Key Comic, holding it down with the emojis, as always. But Richard's on his tail. He is going to one day beat him, I bet. I bet you if Richard had that notification bell turned on and just immediately jumped in, he'd probably win.
I think Richard got first on mine, though. So
yeah, I can't tell. Actually, maybe there is a way to tell, but I've never been able to figure it out if there is, which channel he was first on, but definitely first on at least one of them. So that's cool. GT coming in again. Preston with the sage advice about today's topic, which I've kind of not mentioned. I said we had a fun topic. If you didn't check the thumbnail out, if it didn't make any sense to you, if you're not an Indiana Jones fan, this is what this is in reference to. We're going to be talking about grails, because grails are such, everybody loves collecting grails, right? Like I see pickups from people sometimes on a daily basis where they're picking up their grails. So There's lots of grails out there, and
You should talk about that. I want like to know what the chat thinks grails are too before we get into what we think grails are. So
exactly.
if you guys have a moment, start typing out what you think a grail is.
Hey, Renegade Rants, what's up? What's up? Thanks for being here. Oh my gosh, Carl Choi is in the chat. That is awesome. Carl is the man, the myth, the legend over there at 24/7 Comics. Who, by the way, I just got. Carl, maybe you can elaborate if you're in chat still, because I just got my Sanity Kickstarter package, and I meant to ask Mickey Swaglehouse, who ran the Sanity. He's the creator of Sanity. He's the writer. The second issue, I noticed the back has 24/7 Comics logo on it. I wasn't sure if that was published. That issue was published by 24/7, or if it was sponsored by 24/7, or if that was an exclusive, or how that worked. I'm really curious if you could elaborate on that. But Mickey was awesome enough to send over some extra copies of Sanity, so I hooked up Bigby with a set because he wanted to read the. That was part of the intention. I know because Mickey wrote that on the box. He wanted Bigby to get a set, but he also sent an extra set, and we are going to do something cool with that. Probably not tonight because I wasn't set up for it, but maybe like a giveaway, or we'll do some kind of, maybe a membership reward, or something. We'll do something with that because I think that's really fun.
For sure.
So that's really cool of him to do that. And then let's see. Ooh, I lost my spot. There we go.
Train of thought.
20 away from 2K. There you go. I lose 2 subs for every 6 new subscribers. Yeah, that's about right, man. That's about right. Comic Collector Coach holding it down. What's up, Comic Collector Coach? That's awesome. I gotta get your package packed up and sent out to you, man. He only beat GT one time. Spider-Man 1 is a grail. Yeah. I'm sorry. Spider-Boy 1.
Well, I have some thoughts on that.
I would say Spider-Boy #1 OA could be a grail, but that's just a teaser of what my opinion is. But by the way, shout out to Richard. We've said it before in the past. I forgot to call him by his proper title, though, when we shouted him out. He is the guy in the chair, and he was so excited to be the guy in the chair. And we
even had a chair for him. We had a chair for him to be the guy in the chair.
Yeah, he literally had a chair. He had a laptop. He had everything. He was set up, guys.
He was set up. He was like Ned, right?
Yep, exactly. Mr. Nope. Hello.
What's up?
And what's up? We got Metal Elf in the house. How's it going? Pick me. I love Sanity. Yeah, for sure. So Carl says we have a complicated relationship, but specifically for issue 2, it was a sponsored tier. Thank you. Yeah, I know you guys are friends for sure. Anytime, so far, every time that 24/7 has done a launch, there's been a long stream going on Swagglehouse's channel for the launch, which is really fun. My favorite moment from that, and I tell the story, is about 15 minutes after I dipped out of the Evermind stream. Wesley Snipes, the OG Daywalker himself, which was his actual StreamYard handle, pops into the show from I believe his backyard. And that was really cool. He was hanging out with Sean Chen and Carl and Swagglehouse and Daniel Wu and all, and it was just awesome, like seeing them all hang out. And I know Swagglehouse didn't know what was happening, and in the moment, he was smart enough to ask him about Blade, and this was before Deadpool and Wolverine and all that. He's like, rumors you're coming back, right? He just laughed. I think he even said there can only be one Blade or something like that. So maybe that's just my memory playing tricks on me, but I feel like he said something like that.
Will only ever be one Blade.
That's so great. Hey, thanks, Derek. Let's see here. Hey, what's up, Legion? Mark in the chat. A lot of people, we mentioned Renegade Rants, talked about his YouTube channel. Go sub him up. Legion of Comics, go sub them up as well. Great channels to talk about comic books. If you guys ever have a channel in here, by the way, 24/7 Comics, go sub up their channel as well. And we got
Hydra Silent. Gotta go sub.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you very much for that. There's another channel to shout out. maybe we can get a brief appearance on the Hydra Asylum chat, so that we can show you which channel you should go sub up there as well. But we always love to let everybody know about the great channels out here in the community.
Feel free to throw your link in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. We got Eddie Von B in the house. What's up? What's up? Cool. So you know what? I won't make a big, huge deal of this because I know Heroes for Heroes, it's mostly over. We've talked about it a lot, but I was giving updates, and we did have the total go up one more time, rather significantly. So I want to just make sure that I just quickly show where we're at today. So we are currently at $8,550, which is 107% of our goal. It's really awesome. So just wanted to highlight that for a second. This is still open. You still can go donate. It says 4 days left. I actually might talk to them about extending that through the end of the year, like they did last time. And then we're toying around, just for everybody to know, we're toying around with doing May or possibly June around Flag Day, which was a suggestion we got, but kind of late spring, early summer for when we're going to do next year's. So we're going to kind of change up things a little bit. But congratulations to everybody who participated, who donated. Hey, we raised that fund. Everybody who put in hard work or is still putting in hard work shipping. We do have about 2/3 of items have shipped out, and about half of what's left, if you want to do a lot of math there real fast, is actually just one person's, and it's getting finalized, boxed up, all that stuff now. And then I've got a bunch of 1s and 2s that need to go out. A few of those people haven't contacted me. Comics Embraced, and there's one other person whose name I can never remember, and I'll have to look it up later. But if you won items and you haven't heard from me, reach out on any social media platform or at thebronzeagenerd@gmail.com, please. So very cool. Hey, what's up?
It's Phil. Speaking of people who donated,
and packing up some art too right now, which, speaking of, that's what he donated, so that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And then we did have Hydra Asylum is the channel I recommend. Yeah, absolutely. Recommend following them too.
Throw a link in there, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. So we have a fun topic. We have some fun news to talk about. Quite a bit of Marvel news, as it turns out. Just tons and tons and tons of Marvel news is what I got. And if you guys have any news topics that we didn't actually address, things that you want to hear us talk about real fast, feel free to always talk about that in the chat as we're kind of talking about some of these topics. But first off,
hey, Norin. Hi.
Hey, what's up, Norin? How's it going?
Sorry, distracting you while you're trying to.
Oh no, it's all good. You're doing the professional YouTuber thing. So I'm just going to jump into the news right away, because I do want to get to our main topic quickly, and we got a lot of little things to go through. None of these are like ground shaking, earth shattering. Those are kind of the same thing. News stories, but they're kind of interesting. This one's
poking the bear.
This one's very, and I don't, by the way, I'm not familiar with superherohype.com. I didn't check out the rest of their site. Maybe they are kind of a drama kind of site or something like that. This was recommending, if you have a Google phone, or if you are on an Android platform, there's this feed thing you can swipe over and recommend stories to you. I'm sure other phones have stuff like that too. This was just an article that got suggested to me, and so I was just like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
But the title is Marvel replaces She-Hulk with Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool in Disney Plus banner. And you might think, okay, so what? The problem is that there's been a little tension between Tatiana Maslany and Ryan Reynolds in terms of how everything went down with Deadpool and Wolverine, and She-Hulk not being included, even though there was some desire to get her in the film, and Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy basically said, no, thank you. We're not interested. And so that kind of move, I guess, on a surface level is, kind of scintillating or whatever. But I mean, let's be honest. Deadpool's a much bigger draw than She-Hulk too.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say that.
So,
I mean, yeah, that mean Shots fired.
Yeah, I guess further shots fired in this this little battle. I was hoping they had a picture.
I read that they actually filmed She-Hulk parts and they just cut them.
Yeah, I've heard both. I've heard that it was just a concept thing that Marvel was trying to suggest, push, maybe. There's varying levels of what that story actually was. But it is one of those things where it's the only reason that would have been fun to include her is if it would have been okay. First of all, I do see that there is a potential for fourth wall breaking.
Oh, there would be so much fourth wall breaking. That would be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, just like Nice Pool does that thing where he's like, oh, I can break the fourth wall too. Like, it'd be funny if they kind of like a fourth wall breaking fight or something. Like, I could see that being fun. Or I could even see it being some stupid, remember the old Bugs Bunny versus the animator sketch thing? They could do something like that too, maybe even. But
right.
But ultimately they would have had to make fun of She-Hulk. Like, that's the only way that would have worked. And so, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's not willing to take a joke, but that's how it would work, in my opinion.
What did Nice Pool say? He said, "I can gently nudge the fourth wall as well."
Oh my gosh, this is a great comment. So is this next one about to highlight. Phil-tastic coming with the fire.
There you go, Phil. More shots fired.
Not to be outdone, Renegade says she heard her butt working.
Because she was butthurt. There we go. We had butthurt up there. She heard her butt working.
Yeah, I definitely read that too. Comic collector coach, just like Big B was saying. Awesome sauce. The actress's butthurt. She needs to stop crying. Like, it's definitely not like a good look, right? Like,
right.
Cavill's gonna take over that role, possibly.
She-Hulk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the jokes! You guys are great. The rumors you hear from a trusted source.
We start some rumors. There we
go. By the way, shout out to Round Guy officially.
Yeah.
And there's not much to that. I don't think it's that big.
It's just interesting that they chose. It's almost like they chose that because they knew it was going to get some play.
Yeah.
No such thing as bad news, right? Or bad press.
Yep.
So, Roy Thomas.
Oh my god. It's too funny. It's too funny. The Roy Thomas ongoing joke will never die.
Roy Thomas is going to be in that spot. There we go. Did you see the art that sold for I don't know if that's in our news, but the art for the original Wolverine design sold?
No. The fan submission?
No, the original one drawing by Ramita Sr.
Oh, okay.
And it has Roy Thomas's signature on it, but it looks very fresh. It doesn't look like John Romita Sr.'s signature. And I'm like, man, come on. It looks like he just wrote it with Sharpie like yesterday. I'm like, oh my God. But
famous comic book artist, Roy Thomas, getting his name on there, huh?
Well, yeah, like what they said somebody said, oh, maybe he had to sign off on the design or something, and I'm like, no, I don't think it.
He created the character, so that makes sense, right?
I mean, in a cave with spare parts, right?
Yeah. The best part about that was not okay. So Roy Thomas comes out and says he co-created Wolverine. Very scandalous, but it was a good conversation to have. The part that made it great was like a week or two later when he comes back and I should have been billed first as the creator.
Just so terrible. We had a whole show. If you guys haven't watched that, later on, if you feel like getting some Roy Thomas giggles, we have a whole show about Roy Thomas claiming credit on creating Wolverine. It sold for
a cartoon duck and mouse making all this.
It sold for a fair bit, and that it was the same auction where the first appearance of Deadpool just sold for $900,000. Yeah.
Was that the same auction that the ASM 601 J. Scott Campbell sold at too?
Yes. Same auction. Yep.
And that was
Mickey had a really good video about that, right? Was it Mickey doing a video about
he did. Okay, cool. I haven't seen it yet.
He's like, is the big money switching to original art now?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to with my Spider Boy joke earlier.
Which you can, yeah. I mean,
hey, shout out to Comic Tropes, who is fresh off his other show, I'm sure, which has changed names to. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Chris, you got to remind us what your new second channel's name is, because I know it's no longer Pros and Cons. I know it's like Comic Tropes something extra. I cannot remember. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry, but plug it so we can talk about it, man. We are. I don't know. I'm more or less recovered, but I'm still packing stuff. So, yeah. In fact, a bunch of stuff just went out today. So I'm still packing things and going through all that. I know Comics Limited was helping out with that. I think he's mostly done with his stuff except for one package that I think Big B is going to help him out with a little bit as far as getting it prepped, I think. And then that should go out. And then I got maybe like 6 or 7 more print and one OA thing to go out. Those go together fairly quick though, now that I have all the materials for them. So mostly.
Jay. When Roy gave Bronze his name.
Jeez, chat's moving quick. When Roy gave Bronze's name and he said she'd team up with Big B, do you think he ever thought you'd get so big? Probably not. I know he signed the first sketch of me. He signed that too, just like 15 minutes ago. It was really weird. He just came into my house and just like signing it off to the side here.
A printout of the ultrasound, right?
Yeah, it was really strange.
Roy was my father.
Tell your mom I said hi. It was weird.
Tell your mom I said hi. That's how he signed it.
Yeah. What's up, Lyle?
Oh my goodness. Hi, Lyle.
I have no idea how Monopoly. I have no Monopoly money. Ignore me. Yeah, it is definitely. OA is a big game, for sure. But the good thing is you can get on different levels of it. One of the shows that I actually really recommend following if you are interested in getting OA, actually on the EXP, which we were just talking about a little bit ago. On Fridays, Nick Barucci, the head of Dynamite and Dynamic Forces, actually does something called the Original Art Experience, and you can get some pretty good entry-level prices on original art pages or original sketches. There's other shows on the EXP2 that sell like sketch covers, and they'll do live sketching shows like Mog and Mel do on a show called Sketch Up. So there's ways you can get like original art, but if you want original pages and that kind of stuff, the Original Art Experience is a good way to do that. And there's usually at least 1 or 2 very affordable pages, I feel like, pretty much. And you know, that's still a couple $100 usually, but that's pretty good. Or you could hang out on Heroes for Heroes auctions.
Get pieces there.
Yeah. People got really good deals on some original art pages, published Marvel pages and a DC page and all kinds of great stuff. So there's other ways to do it. But yeah, I was just going to mention the EXP because we do have the Original Art Experience on Fridays. I do want to talk about some of the programming that's coming up tomorrow on the EXP. You do have a minute to skim it with our producer Jay from the chat. You've seen him in there talking to you guys. He's one of the people on that. So is Kyle, my old co-host, and Miss Jen. They're streaming at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 Pacific for all of you West Coasters out there on the Best Coast. And you can go check them out if you want to basically get a capsule review of comic books that are coming out for New Comic Book Day. It's a really good way to do that. You get a bunch of really fast reviews instead of like long drawn out reviews. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but sometimes you just want, the tidbits and hey, is it worth reading or not? And you'll find out if it has good art, if it has good story, if it's worth reading. So I highly recommend that show. Check it on the EXP. The link is in the description below. So, hey, what's up, Sleepy Reader?
Hey, how you doing, Adrian? Or Damien? Damien.
Damien.
Mix up the word, the letters. They kind of both make the same name. I'm sorry. Hi, Damien.
Are there any Golden Age creators still alive? Larry Lieber did a bit, but I can't think of another. That's a great question. Probably a
That's a good
few, but I
question.
don't know if they're.
There's got to be a couple. You'd
Yeah.
think. That's a good question.
Um,
And somebody
it's a
Google
fantastic question.
that.
Oh my gosh, I missed that. I'm
Oh, that's
imagining they
right.
were probably promoting their new Kickstarter they're doing, or Indiegogo. I can't remember where they're launching it, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love them. I love them. Oh, Brown Guy says I also have an original Bane created by our very own band. That is true. Thank you for letting me know which piece that was, because I always mix up who got what. But that's cool. Very cool. It seems like people used to have just one I'm guessing Grail
Grail.
book
Grail.
that they were
Yeah.
seeking that seemed beyond reach. Now it's all just sorts of books. Yeah, and that's definitely what we're going to kind of get to when we get to the heart of our topic. Damien, you're kind of at least the question that I think of, that's kind of where it gets to for me, for sure, is why is every little book a Grail now? But you saying that makes me want to get to our news story even faster, or get to our main topic even faster. So I got to get through some of these news stories.
Well, I didn't type them in the chat, so I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. You're all good. I had to look after saying I had one. Now it's above my comic. Hey, that's really cool. Makes me wish I'd taken more time on it. I basically nailed out a bunch of those on backer boards that I sent out with the first wave of last year's Heroes for Heroes shipments, because I asked what everybody's favorite character was. Part of the reason shipping took so long is because I was doing sketches for every single order that went out, which turns out probably not the best idea.
Yeah,
hey.
but you got to do what you want to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it'd be a fun little like personal thank you, and then I just realized like I'm really glad I didn't even try to do that this year, because it would have taken forever. This article comes to us from Cinema Blend. Kevin Feige is talking about when the X-Men are finally going to join the MCU. They try to hype it up here a little bit. I think my ad blockers blocking whatever was right there. Basically, there's been a while since I've saved this article. I'm trying to remember. The quote is, and I'll just read the quote. I think you will see that never mind. He offered a timeline for when we'll see the mutants assembled, as he put it. I think you will see that continues in our next few movies, and with some X-Men players that you might recognize. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get smaller introductions, is how I read that. Right after that, the whole story of Secret Wars really leads us into a new age of mutants and of the X-Men. Again, it's one of those dreams come true. We finally have the X-Men back. I also love that there's no end quote on this article, which
it just keeps on going. The rest of the whole thing is a quote.
This is also Kevin Feige talking. There you have it. It sounds like Feige. Feige refers to himself in the third person. Everybody knows that,
right?
George is getting angry. So, anyways, the point is that there's two things I took away from that article. Number one, it's not a very attractive website. Number one is that it's definitely going to be like characters getting introduced and teased. So I've seen some speculation already of like what characters that might be. I think it's all speculation at this point. The second thing is that Secret Wars, which is kind of easy to assume that would have been the case, is going to be probably the official introduction of the X-Men. So like as a team, or at least usher them in. So
right.
He's a huge fan. Everybody knows Kevin Feige, big fan of disclaimer language and copyright info for websites.
He won't shut up about that. It just goes on and on.
Yeah. It's all he talks about. Weird. Gosh.
Tots.
Yeah, exactly. I got a fun story to tell you about that actor later, Big B, but I can't say it on the air.
Can't be repeated on the air. All right.
And since that now sounds mysterious and evil, nothing bad about him at all. It's actually good stuff.
Okay.
But I'm just sworn to secrecy. So I'm talking about it in front of dozens of people here on YouTube.
Oh my goodness.
So this goes back to something we talked about a few weeks ago. At least I think it was a few weeks ago. We talked about Deadpool having some like reshoots or publicity type pictures that were happening at a Christmas kind of set. So there is kind of this Deadpool holiday special kind of rumor going around. If I'm remembering correctly, by the way, I should mention this is from comicbook.com. I think this is actually about a Deadpool holiday spot happening. Yeah, here at the Disneyland Resort and the Disney California Adventure Park. So there's a Marvel themed section, and there's going to be a Deadpool kind of short that plays apparently there. But that's kind of just fueling speculation that there's going to be another Deadpool holiday, either whether they do a Once Upon a Deadpool type release for Deadpool and Wolverine or something like that. That's kind of what's basically the speculation here is. They say the story time with Deadpool holiday special is similar to Once Upon a Deadpool. There you go. It's the Christmas themed PG-13 edit of 2016's R-rated Deadpool 2. But instead of reading a PG-13 version of Deadpool to a grown-up and tucked in Fred Savage, which was awesome, a la Princess Bride, Deadpool's holiday special plays out with the good guy in red, Santa Pool, riding in on a unicorn before reading a holiday-themed tale full of Yuletide cheer, which is written by Sir Xavier Charles Dickens, which is great. So, yeah, anyways, kind of some fun stuff there. Check out the article over on comicbook.com if you want to read more about it. But I just thought it was fun because it kind of ties into what we were talking about and those strange pictures we were seeing with like Blind Al's apartment and Deadpool and Christmas trees in the background and stuff. So, Cliff on Comics, how's it going? Welcome,
Hey,
welcome.
Cliff. Actually met Cliff at Terrificon.
Nice. Did you ever meet or kiss Cliff? Oh, wait, no, Kevin Feige. That's Comic Tropes is asking.
Gentleman never tells. Lucky for you, I'm not a gentleman. No.
I know that Roy Thomas created kissing Kevin Feige. That's my callback joke.
Whoa.
You heard it here first. Breaking news.
Breaking news. The lawsuits will be coming in. Direct them to Chris, the Bronze Age nerd.
All right. This is, I think, my last X-related story. So I may as well put this together. This is on CBR.com. Underrated X-Men character gets first look at new Marvel series. I would say first look in new Marvel series would actually make more sense for that title, but hey, what do I know? So spoiler alert, it's Magic. So just talking about Magic getting her own series. I just think it's kind of cool that Magic's getting her own series. There's some talk about this in a private chat of X-related stuff that made me think about this when I saw this article. Magic's a character I feel like hasn't gotten enough spotlight. Like she definitely had more going on in the whole Krakoan era. Like she became one of the war captains. She had more, kind of page time, a la screen time or whatever you want to call it. So I'm pretty excited about her getting her own series again. I know she had a limited series long ago, which told a pretty important part of her story.
I liked her in the New Mutants movie.
Yeah. Oh, she was by far the highlight of that film for sure.
Right.
Yeah, which was Anna Taylor-Joy playing her, which is great. This series will feature the mutant taking on mystical threats, but the rest of her mutant teammates can't deal with. Beginning with Magic presence making itself known from underneath the ice in Alaska, which is where the new X base is for one group of the X-Men. Alan is quoted.
Did they tie that in all with the old X-Men Alpha Flight thing? Because that's like that took place in Alaska with the whole making the base up there thing.
Ryan Stegman just tweeted some artwork of the Alpha Flight is coming to, I can't remember the issue number, but he kind of was teasing that he got to finally drop Puck, which was a dream of his. And so they're going to basically be coming in and knocking on the door, I think, essentially. I think it was like Puck and Guardian on the cover, and maybe one other person too. But
no, because I was referring to the really old X-Men Alpha Flight series.
Oh, I know. But so my point is they are touching on it.
Oh, okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's the whole like Sentinel base thing is what their new base is. I've only read the first issue, so I can't comment on the rest of it because it's kind of slowly coming to Marvel Unlimited where I'm reading it. But yeah, I'm sure somebody in chat who's more caught up on that can tell us if they've already appeared or if they've referenced any of that stuff yet.
We had a lively chat tonight.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Does a picture of him count? That's a good question. Roy Thomas created Thor. There you go. Asking for me. Roy Thomas did co-create Christmas. That is actually just a fact.
Yeah.
The original Vikings. Yeah, he created the original Viking Thor legend.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like they got those wooden parchment pages signed by Roy Thomas in Sharpie.
Awesome sauce. You're 100% correct. Hanukkah should get some more love. And hopefully maybe they'll do a She-Hulk Hanukkah special. Maybe that'd be perfect, right? I'm picking what I imagine is probably Awesome Sauce's least favorite MCU character based on some of his comments to be the Hanukkah mascot. But no, they definitely should. In all seriousness, you're right. My favorite part of speculations are when every writer resets to #1 and all of us buy 12 copies of the same book with different covers when we all know that book ain't no #1. Forever new reader, this is something I've talked about a lot. I know #1 sell. Like, this is probably going to be a topic on its own at one point for us.
Yeah, we talked about this during or before Heroes for Heroes, didn't we?
I think so. But it's a point of contention for me that I think every series, if you do want to like call it a #1 for a new story arc, I guess fine. But I think the legacy number should be present on every cover.
I agree with that. The legacy number should be prevalently displayed somewhere on the book. Like maybe you put a #1 up in the thing and you have legacy numbering down at least somewhere.
Yeah. And I think it should be like essentially, like, I know Venom, they got real creative with the legacy numbering there to like get to the 200 number or whatever that they did.
Right.
And yeah, I would rather just see it be, if you want to say every issue of Uncanny X-Men that's ever been in every volume has actually all been in one legacy volume, I'm cool with that. That's fine. Especially if you do that going forward and have respect for that flow. That's just me. That's a whole different ball of wax, though.
Just give me a checklist of what the issue numbers are.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reading order.
Yeah. Oh, the reading order. That's a big one. By the way, I Chris has asked a couple times, Comic Tropes has asked a couple times, what are you guys reading? And I've been talking about Blood Hunt, and I've been working my way through that. I love that in the back of Blood Hunt, every issue has kind of like the X-Men issues. I love that they had like, hey, here's what's next in the storyline. But in the back of Blood Hunt, they'll tell you what's coming out this month for Blood Hunt related tie-ins or everything like that, which is cool. The funny part is, though, I'm reading on the official Marvel reading order, and it's very different than that list in the back of the issue, which I don't think that list in the back of the issue is supposed to be a reading order necessarily. It's more of like a publication order, but
right, yeah.
Line those things up a little bit, right? Like, or just have it be the reading order in the back, because I mean, if I have the reading order, I know what I want to read next, whether or not was out last week or coming next week. It doesn't really matter, right? Like, I don't know. That's just crazy to me. I shouldn't have to go to websites to look up reading orders for comic books.
Right?
Or your next
they don't, it doesn't do that in the Marvel thing, doesn't recommend the next book to you?
Oh, so I guess I didn't explain that very well. So yeah, so in the Marvel Unlimited app, when there's reading guides essentially. So like I just clicked on the Blood Hunt reading order, and I'm just going through the list and reading every comic in it. So you get to the end of the comic, and when you turn the page, it basically pops up a little box in the bottom. It says, read the next issue in this reading order, or read the next issue in this series. And so you get the option of like, if it was a Miles Morales issue, you could either read the next Miles Morales issue, or you could go read the Avengers Blood Hunt tie-in that's next or whatever.
Do you prefer to read a story arc and then jump over and see what was going on with the other character, or do you prefer to read the reading order of how they came out?
So what I would prefer in all actuality is that a hybrid of those two. This is actually a great topic, man. When it makes sense to read the next issue because nothing happens that breaks the continuity with other things happening in the event, it should just have me move to the next issue of that series. Like if I'm trying to think of a great example, like if you're following Miles's fight to stop the vampire threat in one area of New York and he's working with Blade's daughter and everything like that, as long as nothing happens in the next issue of Miles Morales that interferes with like the overarching story or is a new revelation for the overarching story, just let me read that next so I can stay with those characters. But it'll ping pong you back to the next story, and there might be like one obscure small reference to something that happens in the overarching story or whatever, but it does kind of break up the binge reading kind of flow for those characters. And then like you have that thing happen where you read like 15 other issues and you come back and read the Miles Morales issue again. We're picking on Miles Morales apparently, and you're like, oh god, what was happening? And you know, where was I at in that story? And who are they fighting? And you know, because every issue ends on a cliffhanger, which isn't really a cliffhanger anyway. So it's just kind of one of those things.
I was watching like one of those YouTube ones where they're doing the whole I think it was King in Black, but they were jumping back and forth between the different storylines, and I was like, this has nothing to do with that. I'm just getting like a little piece of this, and then I'm losing track of what we were talking about there. Now I'm getting a piece of this, and now it was really annoying. I was like,
yeah,
I didn't enjoy it.
And that so I thought about doing like a short synopsis or recap or whatever when I'm done with Blood Hunt, because this is the first time in a while that I've read any non-X related full, all the tie-ins, every event book, and it's mostly because of the app. And I was like, you know what? I heard some people saying good things about Blood Hunt and they were excited about it. I want to just go ahead and just read the whole damn thing. And I'll be honest, there's a couple issues that I skimmed through very quickly because I'm just like, there was a couple of Union Jack issues and it's just not my thing. And I was just not enjoying it. Wasn't enjoying the art. And so I skimmed through them very quickly. But for the most part, I've read pretty much everything in the entire arc.
Are you enjoying it? Are you thinking it's pretty good?
Well, that's kind of I guess the spoiler alert or the general conclusion I'm coming to is the core titles, like the core Blood Hunt series, is a fun story. And there's maybe like 1 out of every 4 tie-ins or so feels like either a cool story using the setup of like, hey, vampires have taken over and it's nighttime all the time, and they kind of use that in a fun way. And 75% feels like what it's always been for especially Marvel, which is the event crossovers I'm most familiar with, where it's like you can tell they just kind of had to do something in this story and they had to kind of shoehorn it in, and it's just nobody's excited about it. It doesn't really have high stakes. And, you know, you can tell in a couple issues like, oh, the sun's probably going to come out and everybody's going to be fine again, and they're going to move on and go back and tell their story. And so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like depressing to read everything. It's depressing to read all the times, but you kind of don't know until you're reading it which ones matter and which ones don't.
Right. So I was watching. I watched a guy. He went like on like a 5-minute rant about. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but he went on a 5-minute rant about some things that happened in Blood Hunt, and then he was just like, "Why? Why are we buffing some of these characters to godlike proportions?" So.
Well, and part of the deal with me reading so far behind, I'm cool with it because I don't want to collect floppies or trade paperbacks for all these issues. So I totally know that coming with the territory, I'm going to catch spoilers here and there for some things. The hardest one was waiting to read all the Krakoa stuff and all the was it From the Ashes, all that stuff. It's been really hard waiting to read that, even though it hasn't been great so far, at least to me. It's been tough to wait to dive into that because I have seen a lot of, especially when they were doing the extra page QR code things. I was seeing a lot of spoilers there. So that's tough, but it comes with the territory. And at the end of the day, nothing like there's nothing I've read in comics for a while outside of indies where it's been like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that wasn't spoiled for me. You know, that's just the way it is for me.
That's good that went that way. Man, you've got a bunch of chat to get to.
I know.
You guys are going off. It's great though.
Yeah. Sorry, we were just kind of having a conversation there. So sorry if you ignored it for a bit. We will get to try to get through everything. I'll try to highlight the bigger comments and not just every little comment for a little bit here to get caught up. Cyclops and the team all get jobs closer to the town. but they're working for an Amazon type warehouse, and the main villain is this boss that is mean to them. It's been 3 issues of that. So I think he's probably being more serious, because again, I've only read the first issue of that arc, but my guess he's actually being more serious than joking there. I know. So this thing happened in Krakoa, against slight spoilers, where Beast is the original Beast is back, kind of the non-evil X-Force Beast, and it's really jarring. This is kind of like the Avengers era Beast.
They brought back because he was evil, bad Beast for a while.
Oh, he made Dark Beast from the Age of Apocalypse look like a teddy bear for a while. Not really. They're both
killing people, and I'm fully on like the Magneto train.
But so there was this whole thing where he had a team of clones of himself that were post mutation. It's a weird sentence. Beast, and then they brought back one. I can't remember exactly how. That is like intact memories and everything. That Beast, and then he runs off and gets caught up on everything that happened, and he kind of makes it his mission to take down the evil Beast. And then that's the one that's kind of still hanging around, is the Avengers era like Beast.
Wouldn't that be weird to have that kind of conversation with yourself? Like, how did we get to this point? You know,
that literally happens at one point.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be really interesting.
It's kind of cool. That actually was one of the cooler things, because the Beast stuff was interesting. It kind of made sense with like seeing how Age of Apocalypse gave Beast the potential to be evil. It kind of made sense to take his character down that route to an extent, and show like a little bit of like how that was kind of always there.
I love the Oh My Stars and Garters
yes
Beast, you know, that's my favorite Beast. So
absolutely.
And Trope says Beast got fired for taking a bathroom break, which is,
I mean, if you're not carrying around a piss jug, I don't know what you're doing. Come on. You got to check in on the app. It's like,
hey, still like 35 cents. How you doing? Magneto's
love it.
His powers at work says to kill his co-workers by hand. That's funny.
3,000 number ones of some character only a few months apart. It's a little ridiculous. Yeah. Absolutely. Magic is the new King in Black, so she can use those powers at work to pick items faster because they aren't mutant powers.
She is the new King in Black, though, right? Yeah.
That's actually news to me. I'm not that caught up on
I read something about that, but Jay, if you've read Avengers versus Aliens, I thought that was really good.
Oh, hey, we're going to talk about something kind of related to that in a second. I will say that I just lost my train of thought. Something about some of the Venom Blood Hunt stuff that happened as a tie-in book actually seemed pretty damn relevant to Venom's character going forward, which everybody's reading this, they're like, of course, what is he talking about? The Marvel Unlimited stuff comes out usually like 3 to 6 months later or whatever, so I'm fine.
Everybody's like, oh, wait till you see what you got coming.
What's up, Ozzy? How's it going? The crossover thing, like, and again, I actually love the idea of a crossover. I just hate the execution as it is today. Like,
right.
And if you're going to do a crossover that is X titles only, if you're going to do a crossover that is like Spider titles only, I'm more in favor of that. Because you're more likely to be reading most of those titles anyway, to be more familiar with the characters and what's going on in the lore. Like as a X-Men reader who kind of dabbles in some Spider-Man stuff, getting caught up on all the Avengers lore and getting caught up on all the, who's on the team and what's going on and what was their dark backstory that they have to allude to in this, I don't know. And I have to kind of get caught up again, which is part of it, but it's just annoying. Especially when it's about Union Jack. I'm sorry if Union Jack's your favorite character, everybody.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, Sean. How's it going? Nice to see you. Comic Tropes is getting Renegade Rants rolling as well as us.
Your Tropes, you're awesome.
Philtastic says, I thought Percy did a lot of good work on X-Force and Wolverine. X-Force kind of fizzled for me, but enjoyed both overall. haven't dipped into From the Ashes yet. And this is actually, I was talking about this on my Discord with some people. Benjamin Percy's actually, I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack for this. I actually don't enjoy his like panel to panel writing, but I enjoy his ideas. His writing comes across to me as being very, I hate to say, everything I say is going to sound like a snob, but a little like vanilla, a little like I just don't. I'm never surprised or tickled by any lines he puts in any of the dialogue or any of the the setups, anything. But his stories are cool. I like the stories he weaves are very neat. Especially X-Force, I really enjoyed. So I don't believe it. Some of it's true. Let's be honest. Some of it's true.
Funeral for a furball.
You had everybody going. Man. Doesn't matter if you're Beast, Peter Parker, or freaking Superman. If you don't use a piss jug, Amazon's gonna fire you. It's true. It's true. Union, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Union Jack, nobody. You guys got us all off topic, but I think in the best possible way.
Oh, just take over the show. You guys are entertaining for sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, this is what I always say. Like, if the chat keeps this going, the little news stories we bring up, the little topics are secondary to you guys having a good time and interacting with you. That's the whole point.
That's what I love about Monday nights, just hanging out with everybody and being able to hear their takes on stuff and your takes. So
yeah, and yours 100%. Real fast, this is what I was alluding to. I'll just kind of mention this. This came out a couple days ago. This is also on.
I think somebody said that in the chat too. But
okay, because I know we're talking about Avengers versus Aliens, the Predator versus Spider-Man, which is also Benjamin Percy, so related in all kinds of ways here. This is why this came up in my Discord, as people were asking about this. I won't go too far ahead for people that don't want to get spoiled on this Predator versus Black Panther 4, which I haven't started yet. So I don't know anything about it. I did read the Predator versus Wolverine stuff, mostly because I was excited for Ken Lashley doing more artwork, and he only did the flashback parts, which was too bad because I would have enjoyed more of that. But he did some cool stuff in there. But yeah, basically in 2025, Marvel continues to flex its Fox properties that it's gotten, and after some delays and not really getting those titles out as much as we'd hoped, we got some covers for some Aliens and Marvel stuff, and some Predator stuff eventually. But a lot of these tie-in books were delayed, and now we're getting them, which is fun. I've always said that Batman versus Predator is actually one of my favorite comics. I think it's I mean, just for stupid crossover fights, I think it's a great one. Absolutely loved it. So I'm excited for this.
That's like Elseworlds, right?
I don't know if it was technically labeled Elseworlds. I think it was just like prestige format release. Maybe it was.
So okay, I'm gonna go kind of off topic train here, but like those crossover type deals always bother me that they never have any ramifications on the regular title. But do you remember the Spawn Batman crossover drawn by Todd McFarlane? At the end of that issue, Batman impales Spawn in the forehead with a batarang, and for several issues after that, Spawn had his face stitched back together in Spawn.
Yeah. Which is really a cool look too. Like for as gnarly as Al Simmons looks, like that was like an extra neat layer.
Yeah, I was just wow, they actually like made it where it actually affects continuity. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Stitch with a shoelace. That's right, Jay.
Is the Predator in the story Skip Westcott? That's kind of an obscure character, right?
Is that like a predator, like a To Catch a Predator kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I know
to bring in is that guy from To Catch a Predator.
There's a short on YouTube about that that's hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
It's like Chris Hansen's like sitting in the kitchen. It's all animated, and the Predator walks in like cloaked or something like that, and Chris Hansen's like, oh,
Take a seat.
Were you here to, he's using all these euphemisms, but like the Predator's like, no, I'm here to hunt him. Like, oh, hunt him, right? No, I'm here to kill him. It's pretty funny.
I love it.
I'll post it to my Discord later if I can find it.
You gotta do that.
Do y'all see
Avengers is canon as well? That's true.
Oh yeah. Do y'all see the luster, or for lack of a better word, wearing off for good comic art as of late? If so, is AI art partially to blame, or are the writers finally getting more credit? That's a really good question. It's a very complicated topic because there's a lot to it. I think if I was to give you a very quick distillation of my thoughts on that, I think it's a combination of not paying artists enough in today's market, especially when you're talking about Marvel and DC, because there's a lot more opportunities at places like Image and other smaller companies where creator owned. If they do get their property picked up and they're helping to be like a co-creator of it, they get more money from that on the back end, and they can have more come out of that. So I think they're more willing to lend their time to it, and they have more freedom too, which is a big part of it. So I think that's plays into it. I also think that there's always like this thing where I remember people saying in the 90s, comic art sucks now. It's almost like a generational thing in some ways. I think so that plays into it. Like what your idea of good art is may not be out there, but there's still great art out there, if that makes any sense.
Right. It's gonna be, but it always takes time for it to be viewed as great art.
Yes.
And so
especially by the older readers.
I think we're starting to see, like, having been in comics for a long time, I've seen that coming, you finally, people start to recognize the names and they start to become part of the, pantheon of good or great artists. And same with writers. So it just takes time for recognition. And it's time to,
and I mean, there's
so many great artists. We're going to lose guys that they're not going to continue creating as much because they, get old. You're not as productive, and so you got the new guys coming in. So, yeah, I mean, you got Jim Lee coming back and doing
Hush 2, for example, which is going to be an ongoing. So if you're into the artists that you loved probably 20, 30 years ago, and maybe you didn't, I'm just saying I think most of us did, especially of a certain generation. So you do have that kind of stuff happening. And then you also have, I talked about Ryan Stegman earlier. When I was talking about indie artists and people that do really well on those titles, one of the names that popped in my head was Ryan Otley, who obviously does, Marvel stuff and all kinds of stuff now too, of course. But he did really great work on Invincible for so long, and got to do a lot. He's really associated with that title now and that character in ways that a lot of people don't get to be anymore. If they're just doing a 6-issue arc or a 20-issue arc, maybe at the most, or whatever on a title. That's part of it too, is you'd have John Burns doing, how many issues of X-Men in a row, and then you'd have these epic runs by Perez on Titans and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Anymore, yeah.
Yeah, you get like these kind of starring stints basically, or they'll be the artist on the issue for the first maybe a year, maybe 12 issues if the series is successful, and then they'll move on. So I think
it's too bad we don't see that anymore. Like the big huge run of Perez Avengers, or the John Byrne, or the Byrne Fantastic Four, or the X-Men, or that thing, or the Simonson run of Fantastic Four or Thor, or that kind of stuff too. So it's too bad.
Capullo on Spawn, or on Batman, or there's so many good examples of that where a couple of those are even more modern, but still it's not something that's common anymore.
Right.
And that's probably
even though I don't follow a lot of the modern stuff, there are some names that are starting to really stick out to me, like Jenny Frison. I love her art; it's amazing. So I mean, just from not even really being that much around, I just from osmosis of being around people who are more into the new stuff, I'm starting to pick up a lot of those names.
So that might be my ignorance. Is Frison doing ongoing interiors anywhere, or is she mostly just doing
No,
covers?
just covers.
Yeah.
Her covers are beautiful though. Yeah.
I thought maybe there might be something that she's working on interior wise too that I just wasn't aware of, because that does happen.
Yeah, but yeah, her covers. But she did that cover. The new cover for GI Joe was just amazing.
Yes, and I mean, there, you know, I think that there are lots of great interior artists. Is his name Carlos Gomez? Is doing a lot of good stuff. I feel like I might have just gotten his name wrong, but I want to say it's Carlos Gomez, who he did the Exterminators series, which that's where I first started following his art, because his art was awesome in that book, and he's been doing a lot of good stuff too. I mean, there's always going to be new artists that step up and fill that role. It's just I think their role has changed a little bit in terms of how much creative control and how much, not even creative control, how much creative leash they're given to do a series and kind of become a known name, because they've they had this 40-issue run on Spider-Man.
How is that going to affect their legacy? Like, these other artists were known for these great big runs that they got to do over time, and like, how is it going to affect these new artists on their legacy, unless they have a creator-owned title or something where they can continue to do that's theirs,
Yeah. It's a great question. I'm sure there's probably some chat.
Yeah, really great question. I think that we could delve into that really deeply.
Yeah,
it'd be really nice to have maybe like Chris Comic Tropes and discuss that. Just go bonkers discussing that. But yeah,
and there's probably even some other people we know too that am sure if he's unavailable, that are more up on current comics, because I'm just such a dip my toe in guy these days, and I'm still reading a lot of older stuff, but I have kind of a narrow pool I still read, which is unfortunate. Something I'm trying to change, but yeah.
Hey, you're dipping your toe in more than I am, so yeah. Well, I guess we dip our toe in different parts.
There you go. Got to be careful where you dip your toes.
Whoa.
Mr. Nup says, talking about Marvel Unlimited, I've never even tried that or seen that option. I've manually searched each individual series and or book as I go along. And so for Marvel Unlimited, my tips are go to the series page and follow it if you know you're going to be reading it monthly. But there is, when you go to the search option, there is a reading guide section. And if you just want to, it's not organized very well on the app because it's not, you can't do like a lot of filtering and that kind of stuff. But if you want to search through, or for like, say you want to go back and read Age of Apocalypse, you can go through and find that reading guide and read it. It's honestly pretty cool. So I do dig that. Renegade just absolutely spitting truth bombs. Only 3 likes, folks. Do you like us or you hate watching us right now? Both are valid.
Andy's got a bunch of stuff going on. Andy, we've talked about the topic of AI quite a bit, fairly extensively. How long's it been? Like maybe 3 months, 2-3 months ago, we were really talking about that a lot.
Yeah, like we kind of talk about it as stories were coming up with it, because I don't know how you feel about it, Big B, but I didn't want to like overdo the topic either, because it's such a easy topic. One of the topics I always ask creators when I'm going to talk to them, is there anything that you want to talk about, and is there anything you want me to avoid talking about? And if I had $10 for every time that a creator said, don't ask me about AI, or I'm not really the person to talk to about AI. I get asked about AI a lot. If I had $10 for every time that happened, I could probably buy one of the grails we're going to talk about later.
Right. No, I think like what was really interesting was Starlin. When we talked to him, he was like kind of like, look at the people who were stuck on the horse-drawn carriage and didn't want to get with the automobile. I mean, AI is here. You got to start incorporating and learning to use it as an artist to accentuate or work with, not necessarily use it to create. But it was interesting to talk to Starlin about that.
And I feel like every time we mention that, we got to clarify his comments too. He wasn't talking about using other people's art to train AI. He was talking about
he was talking about using it to help him begin like
backgrounds
set up and backgrounds and that kind of thing, and a lot of that. But he wasn't saying like go full blown AI, but he was saying like, you got to start to learn using it as a tool because it's a thing. So
Yeah. I like this. Weird is good, normal is not. I don't know if I always agree with that, but it's definitely a cool thing to say. I like that.
right.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, what's up, John? Strawberry kiwi. What?
Strawberry kiwi. All right.
That sentence didn't end up where I expected it to go. But you know what, John? I'm not going to kink shame anybody. You go for it. Just, I mean, let me know how it goes, I guess. Sozumika, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh, who's the new addition to the Voltron cast? I didn't see that.
Didn't read that one.
I know Cavill was the big addition. Mike Del Mundo. Okay, we've had some great artists mentioned. I'm trying to pop up each one as I see it, even if we're talking.
Right.
Carlos Gomez. Okay, so I was right. Okay.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to derail the train and talk a little bit too. I sent you a thing about whether you see the reshoots for Captain America again, like.
Oh, right. Yeah, there are reshoots for Captain America.
Second time.
Rumors.
Yeah.
So I do need to point that out because I feel like it's clickbaity for every superhero movie for them. If there's any kind of hint of it not being the biggest thing ever, that talking about reshoots will get you clicks or whatever.
Right.
See, look, our viewers just shot up by -10 when I said that. So there you go.
Scott Baio's joined the Voltron cast. Sterling K. Brown, Rita Ora, and John Kim announced as additions. Cool.
Rita Ora and John. Okay, interesting. That's cool. I'm sorry. I'm just checking out chat. I'm trying to get caught up to it. Sorry, some of your comments. I definitely see all of them, and I usually go back and kind of play through, and chat's really active. But at some point, we gotta get caught up to chat. Scott, yeah, it's so funny.
Figure drawing says at least apparent reshoot seems to indicate that they care. So.
Yeah, there's two. So the other part of Bigby's headline, which is important context, was that it was due to negative test audiences, which that's kind of become a point of contention for me because there's been all these sort of infamous examples, and of course now that I say that I can't think of one where test audiences hated a movie and it ends up being awesome,
right?
And directors had to kind of fight the studio and say, well, maybe I can make a small change based on the test audience. I wish I could really think of a good example of that now. I'm sure chat will fire off a couple popular ones, but I know that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, it does happen for sure.
Yeah. He joins Kevin Sorbo as Guy 20 miles away. That's pretty funny. Figure Drawing asks, do you guys watch gory horror movies? If so, Smile 2 is ace. Phenomenal Naomi Scott performance. I actually just queued up Smile 1 because I heard good things about Smile 2. Gory horror movies that are all about jump scares are not really my thing. Gory horror movies that are about, like The Thing, for example, is my go-to example. It's a great gory horror movie. It's not really about jump scares. It's more about the psychological tension. More my favorite thing, but it doesn't mean I don't watch them. It's just not my favorite genre. But
right.
Robert Pattinson talked to. Okay.
Oh yeah, talk Marvel. Okay, the series for The Question possibly in development. That's cool.
The Question.
I think he's saying those are two different statements. Like Robert Pattinson is rumored to do Marvel, and then a series for The Question is possibly in development.
If I'd read the period in the middle of that comment, it probably would have helped me with that. Unfortunately, I did not because I was reading the plain text and not the giant highlighted text in front of me, which I often do. Before I get caught up. Before I get caught up on the comments, I do have to mention one thing. I've mentioned a couple times that we're streaming on the EXP. There are a couple other great shows that are on the EXP as well. One of them is Minute to Skim It, which we talked about earlier. It's a great show. I highly recommend. Also, James, who aka Mint Hunter, has a show on Tuesdays as well on the EXP. And if you're not familiar with Mint Hunter, he does some really great YouTube content. I was just checking out one of his videos the other day. I don't always agree with everything James says, but he does thought-provoking and interesting videos. So I definitely recommend checking him out if you kind of are curious about those kind of topics. And he also does great claim sales on the EXP. So if you want to check out a chance to, end up with some great comic books, he has some really nice stuff. He picks up lots of collections. He was talking about picking up a collection in that video. So I'm sure there's probably going to be some stuff coming soon to his claim sales from that collection he picked up. And I highly recommend checking out his claim sales. You can check that out at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. I am sorry, that is actually the wrong time. 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Wrong show. I was giving you the times for there. Sorry about that. So once again, that is 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific for Mint Hunter, for the claim sales he does over on the EXP. Highly recommend him. Test audiences didn't like Madam Web. So sometimes they can be right. I mean, that's what we've learned.
Richard said they hated Fight Club.
That is actually one of the ones I was thinking of. So they hated Fight Club. They didn't understand it. And I think that because Fincher was still a relatively new director, he did have to change something in Fight Club, but I can't remember what it was. Fight Club's a fascinating story.
Yeah,
like literally
really.
the story of the novel, the story of the movie, and then the story of the making of it is also pretty interesting as well.
So I took one for the team and watched Joker 2, by the way.
So did I.
Did you?
So did I. Finally watched.
So now
it,
I understand why he said what he said about that wasn't necessarily always the Joker. I mean, I get it.
Yeah. I saw an interesting Reddit comment from somebody who was like, how can I be a fan of the Joker and kind of more or less ignore the Joker too? And he said that it was basically like you had to pretend the Joker 2 is just the Joker's imagination of what could have happened as he's like sitting through prison and sitting through a trial, and he's just kind of like all the songs are kind of almost like daydream sequences in a way. I don't know. Joker 2 is not great.
It wasn't great, but there were some. I mean, like I skimmed through some parts, but some of the performances in certain parts were really great. So
yeah, it's bad.
Certain parts. I'll say certain parts.
Yeah. I can't. It's one of those ones where I expected to like it more than I expected to go into it and be like, oh, people hated on this a little too excessively. For example, I'll say that as bad as Madam Web was, and hear me very clearly, it was bad. It was almost a fun movie to watch because it's bad.
Right.
Kind of one of those.
That was snooze fest parts in Joker.
Yeah, Joker was not the same kind of way for me at all. I will say there's a scene near the end that definitely was exciting and interesting. Kind of like I guess you'd say almost like the climax of the film. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that still does want. It's still relatively, kind of new out there, but that's all I'll say. But that was the only good part of the movie, in my opinion.
We'll have to talk. I'm gonna make a note to talk to you about after the show because there was
sure.
something I'll ask you about.
and this is the kind of stuff I'm not like seriously pushing my Discord, but occasionally we want to talk about images that are not safe for work, and occasionally we want to talk about spoilers for things. A great place to do that if you ever want to have those kind of discussions, you can hop over to my Discord server. There is a link in the description for that as well. Yeah. And you can say hi there. And usually if like big shows come out or something where people are going to talk about spoilers, I create a channel specifically to talk about those things so people can be spoiler safe.
Spoilers be warned. Is that the title of it?
For here there be spoilers, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So the idiots that produced Madam Web decided to put Sydney Sweeney in a librarian's outfit instead of a Spider-Woman suit, except for the end where she does appear in one, but not nearly enough. in my opinion, because that actually is one of the coolest parts of that movie, is that one short scene where you get to see all the characters in costume. Which is, sorry, I won't apologize too much for that one, but that is kind of the end of the movie.
Like with the CPR scene, I mean,
yeah. I've mentioned it before there, and I cannot remember all the little takes that were brought up in it. There's a great video on YouTube that goes through how very clearly some scenes in Madam Web were done via ADR, which is additional dialogue recording, and you can tell because lip movements aren't matching what characters are saying, or they've like propped someone's face out of the shot. The villain in the film, that happens a lot with him, and there's some really interesting points that person, and a lot of it's conjecture, but I think it's really educated guesses about what that film was actually supposed to originally be about, and they changed some of it in the edits, probably for the worse, but maybe because they had to for contractual reasons or something.
right.
Did either of you stay awake?
Yeah.
Oh man, and
through some parts.
I think with all the Wicked talk going on, it's an important reminder that not everyone needs to sing along in a movie theater.
Oh, geez.
Madam Web is fun bad. I'm covering it on the next Trash Movie Bonanza for that reason. Oh, there we go. I'm actually really looking forward to that one. That would be really cool. That's the kind of movie that I do like watching. Bad, what's the word, like schlocky kind of movies.
So bad they're good.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. Like I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf, which is, it's kind of that, it's all bad, makeup and bad CGI and bad, sets and writing and all that stuff, but it knows what it is and it's being that way. There's also things that are very unintentionally that way, and they're still great. Sometimes even better.
That's part of Red Dwarf. It's the cat, when the cat got to make the wish, and he's like, I just created a woman who's half fish and half woman. And the guy's like, oh, you mean a mermaid? Like a human on the top and a fish on the bottom. And he's like, no, it's the other way around. Why would you do it that? It's like, no, it makes no sense.
Or the best scene with the cat ever, which is the episode where everything's in reverse, where they go to the planet where everything's happening backwards. And at the very end of the episode, the cat goes to use the bathroom and everything happens in reverse. Yeah, it's a great show. I wish I could pull I'm going to search for it, and guess what? I'll post it in my Discord. I'm making it sound like an advertisement for
Tropes. Tropes, do you ever watch Matt with 3 T's? He's very much along the same line of thinking as you. I think he's very entertaining, so you should check him out.
Okay, cool. So we basically got caught up with chat here. Bayou Shade says the only movie it is acceptable to sing along with in theaters is Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I think so as a former movie theater manager, I had a short 5-year career in that, and projectionist and movie theater manager. Here's my take on it. People that don't know, Wicked is a huge deal, and people are singing along in movie theaters, and like AMC is kind of famously telling people, hey, STFU, this is a movie theater, which I agree with to an extent. But if there's that big of a demand for it, have sing along screening times where people can do it. I mean, theaters aren't exactly in a great place right now.
Right.
Kramer versus Kramer is one of the better ones. Rosemary's Baby. There's lots of great ones. Why, like, this is not a knock against you figure drawing. Why is it? I think there's not been a single stream of these we've done where we haven't talked about Sydney Sweeney.
The resemblances uncanny.
It's yeah, that's true. So I'm gonna super fat, like barely even talk about it because I want to get to our main topic while we still have some time left to do.
Sorry, we're having too much fun.
No, it's great. There's a heavy metal relaunch Kickstarter going on right now. it's been hugely. I looked earlier today; it was like at $50,000. It's already at like $250,000 of its
Holy
$5,000 goal. It looks pretty cool. I don't know if I'm going to be picking it up, but they do have contributors: Stephen King, Mobius, Frank Frazetta, John Carpenter, Frank Miller, Geiger, Crumb, Kirby, Harlan Ellison. There's a lot. Bernie Wright. There's a lot. There's tons and tons and tons of creators here involved. This is the cover for me. Like the Greg Hildebrand cover is amazing. I'm so glad that exists. Rest in peace. Speaking of rest in peace, they have Frank Frazetta. That's the weird thing about this is a lot of this stuff is not new art, so it is kind of interesting, but it's still cool. I'm never going to complain about Frank Frazetta. But lots of great stuff here. There's like
remastered, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool to get the blank covers for sketching on.
Oh, totally. 100%. And I don't know, maybe that sounds like callous, or I'm not knocking it. It's just one of those things where it's just, I think it's kind of just interesting that's kind of the big draw. But then again, those people have a storied history in this.
Yeah, I saw Metal Hurlan, or I'm not pronouncing that, probably Hurlan or something like that, but however you can pronounce it, had the Kickstarter going as well. It also had like a special Mobius book that you could get along with it, which was really cool.
They do have like these little like statues too that they're shows. I think these are just prototypes. Yeah, ready to paint collectibles. That's what it is.
That's cool.
These are pretty neat. There's lots of cool stuff with this, but I just wanted to mention this, and I need to check out. I know Big B mentioned that earlier. I ran out of time to go look it up. Because before the show goes on, I have a lot of real life stuff that happens in the household that I have to deal with, and I just didn't have time to go look it up. So apologies for that, but I will definitely check that out. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. So, yeah, no, I know it was a response to an earlier comment. It's just one of those things. It's just kind of fun that it always comes up, and yeah, and I don't mean that like in a please stop bringing up Sydney Sweeney kind of way. I mean, it's like it's legit funny to me that she comes up.
It's unusual. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I often, like, I've made Sydney Sweeney memes and stuff too before, so trust me, I'm all about it.
It's not unusual.
Mostly Poops, but not always mine. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
There's other people in this house that poop too, so it's mostly me. So I think that we should maybe
talk about
play a little game.
We should maybe play a little game. Grail or fail. Okay.
So now that everybody's gone,
what your concept of a grail is first, or do we want to do it after we do the show some books?
I think we should show some books, and this is designed to be an interactive game with the chat.
It is. I would like for people to put in the chat, or also like, I think it'd be an interesting experiment to have people put stuff in the comments and then like read stuff back next week, maybe. But
yeah. Or I'm gonna give you the large screen here because you're gonna show off some things, and then chat.
I'm gonna ask you if it's a grail also, because I loaded some of this stuff up with bronze-esque stuff. So,
but I am going to slowly answer each time to give people a chance to answer in chat before they hear my answer.
Bronze, is this a grail?
Ooh, I'm going to say it depends.
Okay.
Because for some people,
in the chat, comment, right? Yeah. For some people, go ahead. I have thoughts on this that I will discuss at the end, I guess. But
like, if you wanted a 9/8 newsstand, like that is,
this is a 9/8 contender for a newsstand. Yes,
that might be a grail for some people, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that's that's very dependent. I would say in most cases, like, just to say, if you wanted a G.I. Joe #1, probably not.
Okay. So this is kind of along the same lines.
It's pretty much the same answer for me. Just a
right. Yeah. Okay.
I should have waited longer to say that, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. Is this a grail?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. You know, this is what this is, right?
Yeah.
This is the one per store. Gold Venom #1.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
I actually don't know the answer to this. Is the black air variant or whatever rarer than that one?
Yes. This one, there's probably like 1,500 copies in existence. Maybe thereabouts. But it was a one per store.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with no on that one.
Okay.
That's my personal answer, by the way. I'll get to that in a second.
Hey, Mickey.
Hey, we were just talking about you earlier
We
with your Sanity launch. Congratulations on sending those out.
We were promoting the Sanity launch.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this a grail?
Qualified no.
Qualified no. Okay.
Qualified no. Yeah. Again,
so we got some comments. Not a grail,
no.
but
I'm
like
giving my
hard
personal
to find issue. Only reason that it is sought out as rarity. Probably let's talk about the gold Venom.
Probably. Yeah.
I think a grail is very personal. Otherwise, we're just saying it sells for a lot. That is true also. All right.
Good point, Richard. Good point. We will get to that.
Grail.
I'm gonna go no personally. Again, these are just my personal answers.
First Howard the Duck. For those who don't know, we'll get there. They'll get better. Oh, I should go. Hang on.
Or will we?
Is this a grail?
Okay. Here's what I'll say. For me, my personal answer is no, but for some people, definitely.
Okay. That goes along with my definition of grail also. So it'll be interesting to see what we both say at the end. So this is kind of going to probably be the same thing then. This is, first.
Yeah. Exact same answer, I think. Yeah. For me, and then for some people.
I should say that like my playlist for our show, the powers that be at YouTube decided that it would be a great podcast. So for those who can't see, that was Ultimate Fallout 4.
Yeah, some of my stuff gets converted to podcast playlist too, which I've definitely thought about doing if there wasn't a million of them out there already. Right. And if you are an audio listener, we appreciate you.
Right. For sure. All right. How about? All right. Let's ask this one. Is this? All right.
Now, what kind of comic you got there, huh?
I'm going to make a name for myself. This is a nice free copy, but
that's First Thong Man, correctly?
First for those listening along, Uncanny X-Men 266. I'm sorry,
chronological.
So it was G.I. Joe #1 earlier, the very first one. But anyway,
chronological First Thong Man, but it's
okay.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Mickey. You got it. Second appearances can't be
a grail, right? Is this?
I'll give the same kind of answer I gave for UF4 and Edge of Spider-Verse 2. Not for me, definitely could be for some people, but probably not for most people is my guess.
So we should read some of the comments because some of the people are saying, are you defining Grail as a showstopper or something hard to find? Not a great question, but Fear 19 is on my list of what I want. Also Uncanny 266. So, all right.
I spent about 10 years searching for the Jaws manga. Only paid $30. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So something I think some things that are kind of personal grails don't necessarily have to be expensive.
Correct. So my answer for this one is that this could definitely be a grail for somebody. But again, not for me personally, but it definitely could be for somebody.
Steranko #1 annual or king size special.
Yeah, same disc.
Yep. Don't make fun of me. This is the only copy I have. It's kind of low grade. Is that a grail?
Guys, roast his ass. Come on, I
want to hear it. Roast my ass for my 7.5 first appearance of Deadpool.
There's a 9.6 back here off camera I could have pulled down if I would have known you'd be bringing that trash to our show.
No, but I think like this is a legit question. Like some people, this might be a very important book to them. Right?
That to me, 100% in the same vein of like UF4 and Edge of Spider-Verse 2. Yeah, more so, really.
So Trope says, I think a Grail is hard to find, but how pricey it is doesn't really matter. Comic Ozzy with some good points about the Hulk. Murray Severn getting the assist.
Swag, I love it. 7.5, probably more rare than the 9.8. You probably got a point there.
That's true. I got that. Some of these books, the game that could be played along with Travis from Comics Limited and Steppo and Dan from Dan's X-Men Comics is from me or not from me, because a lot of these are from all those three guys. I get a lot of folks from them.
Nice. My answer on this one is probably not for most people, but it definitely is possible.
Okay.
I think people are going to remember all the caveats I'm giving here. That's
and I would like in the comments, if you see a book that you think is a Grail, I'd like you to put it in the comments so we can read that later. Something that's your Grail. Okay.
I know people personally. This is a Grail book for them. So yes.
Okay. 9.6 Marvel Superhero Season 4 is number 8 first.
Although I always question people that's their
Grail, right?
Versus
so
ASM 52 or
my definition of a Grail for me personally might be different than some people. I actually written down my definition of a Grail on, put it down in writing on the piece of paper. So this will go right along. What do you say? Look close there, everyone. Is a facsimile edition? Yeah, that's right. They're all facsimile editions. No, ASM 300. So if everyone was, then for sure this one is probably right.
Yeah. I mean, although you could kind of go back to Swag's comment, second appearances shouldn't count, but yes, there are definitely people out there who feel that way.
The round guy said, "Yeah, King Size Hulk is a Grail for him. He has one missing back cover."
No, I highlighted that one earlier when you had your back turned, but that's
okay.
That's a good point. Not even a newsstand, not a real. Yeah, mine's an 8.0, but it's a newsstand.
Wow. This one.
Oh yeah, that could for sure be one.
Okay, yeah. Tales of Sonic, first appearance of the Wasp.
Yeah.
And I only picked like 30 some books, so don't worry, guys. We're gonna go through them pretty quick. First Zatanna. Is that a Grail?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, definitely could be. Yep.
That could be a Grail. Okay.
Yep.
Might not be on your list, but it could definitely be on your definition of a Grail.
It's not on my list of Grails. It is on my list of comics I'd like to collect someday, and it is definitely one I can understand people having as a Grail on their list for sure.
This one, like, it wasn't necessarily on my list for this year, but Steppo offered it to me, and it's, we believe, a 9.4.
Wow.
I was very stunned to get that. Okay, here we go. Something more modern, but oh yeah, you've got one behind you right there. There you go.
Not a newsstand, it's a direct, but it is a 9.8 direct. Oh yeah. It could for sure be, yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con, first
Hellboy.
How about this guy?
Oh yeah.
Surfer number 4.
Yep, definitely. I'll kind of tease a little bit of my answer here. That's a book that for me is high up on my list, but I don't consider it a Grail. Okay, that's kind
I would say if I didn't already have it, it does not qualify as my definition of a personal Grail, but there's qualifications to all of this. So I'll start going a little faster. So Daredevil number 4 or Daredevil number 7, first appearance of the red costume.
Yeah, that could be. Oh yeah,
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah,
right. Number 1.
Does it have the centerfold?
It does have the centerfold.
Then yeah, sure. No, I'm just kidding. Even if it didn't, it definitely could be. I'm just being that pedantic comic book guy. Oh yeah,
that's probably on your Grail list, right?
No.
Nope. Well, it's not one of the 3 I know on your list.
Yeah. That so that you're kind of there you go. Oh yeah, 100%, right up there with a lot of the other kind of modern ones we talked about.
Right.
This was all, by the way, this was really just a clever ruse for Bigby to show off some of his best books.
I just wanted to. Well, I've got a lot of friends who've said like, "You guys don't show enough books." I'm like, I wanted to do.
No, for sure, it's a great way to play, and I love that the chat's getting involved here.
So,
yeah, that could be
first Black Widow.
Yeah,
and first
definitely.
Crimson Dynamo. There we go. Here's two that have something in common.
Well, yeah, because he's bringing out these like pissant 7.5. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm totally kidding. Copy of this one.
His collection blows mine out of the water. There you go.
And then this one has something to do with that one.
Oh, nice. Right on.
So first Luke Cage and first Falcon. So either of those were those. Well, so I think I'm zooming in on your thing of what's the Grail to you is.
Yeah.
Specifically things that you are looking for that don't. So I get okay. So
that's not even all of it, but we're getting warmer. Oh, definitely could be a Grail for somebody. Not me, but could be for somebody.
Not me, but somebody.
Yeah, could be for sure. Ooh, which one is that again? Is that Foom 3?
This is Foom number 2.
2, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Wolverine prototype.
Yeah, definitely.
Retired fan. Hey, you know what? Okay, I'm showing all these books. I want you guys to know that I do not have a lot of money. I trade and I use the hobby to fund itself, as people say. And that is how I have acquired all of these books.
He says that as he's streaming from his palatial estate where we were streaming Heroes.
I'm using my secondhand camera that Bronze donated to me, and I have no great microphone.
Of course, we spent all that money on those comic books. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
No,
right.
Bigby is 100% legit there.
This one, I think you would say yes.
Oh yeah, definitely could be. Yeah, and by the way, here's where Bigby gets to defeat me because I have a lowly, like I think it's a 6-0 or something like that of that. So yeah, you defeated me on that one, man. 100%.
No, okay. Figure drawing, not much money. I'm saying I didn't have a lot of money to spend on these. I used my knowledge of looking for bargains and trading and selling books to accumulate money to get said books or trade for these books. So,
guys, I'm just devastated. Shots fired. I'm just kidding. Bigby just flashed probably 10 times the amount of like the best books in my collection. Like
Bronze he's understating his collection. I've seen some great books in your collection, buddy.
Well, there's definitely some great books. Probably the only one I could have that could hang here is FF48 though. Yep, 100%.
Number 1.
Yeah,
we're getting to the end.
That's what she said.
Yeah. How about an FF6?
Can you go lower than 6?
No, I can't. Not yet. 6 is as low as I go.
Not definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, first team up of supervillains in Marvel. This could be on your list someday. Not right now. It's not. But.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a copy myself, so that wouldn't be on my list, much like you're saying. But definitely, it's probably a nicer copy than mine, or maybe about the same. But
you got an 8.5 or one of them?
Yeah, I think mine's probably like maybe more like a 7.5, but it's raw.
So I will let you guys in on a little secret. Like a lot of these books that I pick up from Travis, my brain Comics Limited, he will get them graded and he will be disappointed in the grade and like almost disgusted in the grade and be like wanting to just get rid of them because he's so unhappy with the condition they came back in.
People with their grades, man, they get caught up in it. Oh yeah.
Surfer number 1?
Yep, definitely. Almost as cool as an FF48.
Almost as cool. That's right. There you go.
The joke here being that I can't hang.
That trumps that one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
We got 3 more to go.
Very cool.
All right. These 2 books meet my criteria of what is a grail.
That
This one?
qualifies. I should point that way.
This so Tales of Suspense First
That
Appearance
qualifies as a grail.
qualifies as my criteria of what is a grail. And I will clarify that in a little while, but I was lucky enough to get this, and thank you to Son of Crom for helping me to facilitate getting this. Very big thanks. I'm still in your debt, sir. So yeah, so that qualifies. And
The chat was like, yes, maybe, I don't know, and then they get to this book and they're like, that's a grail.
Grail for sure. No, grail. That's a grail.
See, that's
And then this
helpful.
one, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to my friend Travis from Comics Limited. This also definitely fits my criteria of a grail. So,
oh yeah, and not a book he had graded and then got disgusted with either. It was a different kind of deal. Yeah, 100% faux show.
Yeah, this one definitely meets my qualifications for grail. So, what we had a couple of things were said. I think the reason this topic was brought up. So grail is becoming a very loosely based term. Yeah, everybody has their own niche, but if we're not naming off the same handful of the big character first appearances, those lists are everywhere. Grail and rare are used way too much. That's a grail, 100%. Ironically, the grail is not the grail for either of our hosts. He holds up what I consider a grail and rare book. I don't know what one's that. And GRAIL, that must have been the Fantastic Four. Yeah, so I would like to hear your thoughts on what you consider a grail, sir.
Yeah, and I'll give you 2 explanations here. The first explanation is just my list of grails. Y'all ready for this? I'll give you my whole list.
Is it 3 books?
It's 3 books. So you already know what they are. A lot of people already know what they are. Giant Size X-Men #1, Incredible Hulk 181, and X-Men #1. The only 3 grails that I have. That list will change over time, hopefully. But here's why that list is the way it is. Those books are books that are, to me, currently a Schrodinger's cat of attainable and unattainable. So those are books that may not be attainable to me in my lifetime currently, the way things stand right now. Technically, it's possible. That's why I say it's Schrodinger's cat. Like I could, devote my entire life's effort to acquiring one of those books and make it happen. Sure. Yeah, I 100% could do that. But it would require an epic journey or crusade, if you will, to acquire one of those. Sydney Sweeney's some things could be on my list, but it's not her notebook. Unless that's some kind of new slang. No. So for me, the logic there is it has to be something that is going to be, if I acquire it, an amazing stroke of fortune or a massive amount of effort. But it's also something that I love, something that I value deep in my core of what it comes to my mind when I think of myself as a comic book collector. And those 3 books, it's really obvious to see the connection. They're all X-Men books. They're X-Men books I don't have. That so Giant Size X-Men #1. I'm a huge fan of Colossus, of Nightcrawler, of Storm, of many of the characters. People, I jokingly say Storm is my least favorite X-Men, but I love all the X-Men. And even my least favorite X-Men is still one of my favorite X-Men. And I only say that because I think she's kind of overhyped. That's all. But I still love all those characters. And so it's kind of the 3rd most major first appearance significant book. I also think the story is really cool, the way it introduced the kind of international team, if you will. is kind of a sea change moment in comic books. So it represents that to me. Hulk 181. I actually own the first appearance of Wolverine, which is Hulk 180. At me if you want. But Hulk 181 is the iconic cover. Roy Thomas stamp of approval right on that thing. And it is
Excited for you?
I hope so. Otherwise it's worthless. It's just, that is the grail. And then X-Men 1, my favorite character is Cyclops. I don't own the first appearance of my favorite character in comic books. That's something that is a black hole in my my love of comics. But also I really love Jean Grey. I really love Beast. I really love Angel. Iceman's cool. I'm just kidding. I love all those characters.
And then there's Iceman.
Yeah, no, I love all the characters, and I love Magneto, and I love Xavier. There's lots of reasons, but Cyclops is the number one reason, and then it's kind of in that order. But again, that's like the top 1% of my favorite comic book characters of all time. Exactly.
I think I put Iceman before Angel, but that's okay.
Angel's been fleshed out more, I feel like, over the years, but yeah, it's because he's more like not traumatized, but he kind of, I guess traumatized is the right word for it after the Archangel stuff.
The traumatized rich boy? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
poor Warren Worthington the Third.
But I love all those. Comic Trip says his grail is TMNT 1.
Tropes, your comment there, that and the second quote there, comment there, go along with what part of my definition of a grail. So get into that.
Yeah. Roy Thomas did the breakdowns for the cover of Hulk 181. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for you. Do your grails change over time?
That's the thing. So I'm trying to think of what would have been so at one point, Batman Adventures 12 was a grail of mine. Mm-hmm. At one point, New Mutants 98 was a grail of mine. So those are characters I really love. I love Deadpool. I love Harley Quinn, and I didn't own those, and so they were grails. At the time that I really seriously kind of kicked myself for not owning them, they were both ramping up in value. The first one was Batman Adventures 12, and because of the Margot Robbie being cast as Harley Quinn for the first Suicide Squad movie, that book started to see real growth, and I was like, oh man. For years, it looked like I was never going to own that book. Same thing with New Mutants 98, and then I did, and there's probably other ones that I could think of. I didn't really think of them in terms of grail at the time, but there are other ones for sure. There's books I have that are close to grails, by the way, like Legion of Superheroes 23, the Adam Hughes Supergirl cover.
That's
also,
for me.
Yeah, I mean that's very close to a grail. But I love it, and I have kind of the original comic that it's based on, so it kind of doesn't meet that weird criteria that it has to be for me. So I guess the overarching thing for me is I'm very selective on what I call a grail.
Right.
Yeah,
those things that when you got them now, does that make them not a grail anymore?
Not to me, and that's the thing, is a grail is different to everybody, in my opinion, because everybody has different levels.
Attaining them changes their status as a grail.
It kind of, in a way, like a grail to me is the journey to get there. Like that, it's almost like a metaphor for the journey to get that thing, to acquire that collectible that you're interested in.
See, that might even help me more, like defining what a grail is too, because like that FF number 1 is still a grail to me, even though I own it.
and to know, I think that to know that something would be a grail to most people definitely helps, right? Like that's because we could talk about books I know are probably grails for the masses of comic book collectors, like Action 1 or something like that, or AF-15. Like those are going to be grails to most collectors. It's funny to me, AF-15 is not a grail of mine, because although it would be amazing to own one, it would be incredible, it's not one of my collection goals. I have no desire to put the effort in that it would take for me to acquire an AF-15. Remember, I don't have an X-Men 1. I don't have a giant size X-Men number 1. I'm a very
makes two of them.
Well, but you have books that are more expensive than my most expensive book. Like it's very hard for me to acquire those books through trade, through money, through all those kinds of things. So my definition of what grails are gonna be very different. So looking at like an AF-15, even though I think Spider-Man's a great character, he's not my favorite character. He's not in my top 10 favorite characters. So going after like crazy an AF-15 is not something that I'm gonna go on that journey for. If I had the insane ability to pull the trigger on one and it was some steal of a lifetime, like I'd probably still get it. I'd probably never sell it, but it would mostly be to pass it on to my kiddo, so that I knew that she had something that she could have that was really valuable someday, right? Like I'd prize it. I think it was amazing. I'd appreciated the history of it. I could love it, but it wouldn't be because it's something that I've wanted since I was 8 years old. You know, it's not something that like attacks me at the core of my being in that way, right? Like it's just not something that I value as I value it as a piece of art that I could admire on a museum wall and I could admire looking through it. But I wouldn't ever desire to own it for the effort I know it would take most people.
Right. No, I think I find it interesting that something was a grail on your list, but has since acquiring has transferred to not being a grail. I find that interesting, just the thought process of that. And to me too, so because some of these books like I was just insanely after them, and like I think I've had the same thought process as you too, where it's like, well, it's not as big a deal now. But yeah, no, Mickey and the chat are having some really good discussion there about the difference between, what did he say? What was Mickey's first quote there?
I was actually I think a lot of kind of what I was saying in some cases here, that's generally referring to books that most collectors imagine AF-15, Batman 1, FF1, etc. as being expensive stuff, but on an individual basis, Grail is highly subjective. 100% agreed. 100% agreed.
No longer a grail, like getting married.
Yeah, and that's kind of a weird one for me. It's like you know, if to me, I guess that's the best thing I can say, is that a grail is the metaphor for the journey it takes to acquire that thing. And that's not technically true. Like if you went to go get the Holy Grail, like from our thumbnail, right? And you brought it home, it would still be the Holy Grail. But the journey to go get that Holy Grail just wouldn't be there.
Hey, it is, a lot of it is about the journey, and that
I was gonna, let's be honest, Swaghouse is only going to go for a 10, a solid Gem Mint 10 Darkhawk one.
Comic Collector Coach says a grail is still a grail even after you obtain it, but I agree that the journey is part of what makes it special. And you know what?
Yeah.
Lord of Brooklyn says a grail has to be universally accepted as a key book. That was a question that I had also. Are all grails keys?
Well, so that's the thing, right? Like, so could, like, imagine a situation where, and this is just like the best example I can think of. Imagine that you were a kid growing up reading the golden age of comic books or the silver age of comic books. And maybe your comic book, the first comic book you ever bought that your mom threw away when you went off to college, was just a run filler issue. And it wasn't a key, but you loved it because you read it 1,000 times.
Right.
Maybe owning that again is your grail someday, and it just happens to be a rare, expensive comic book. But so here's actually what spawned all this, and I think it kind of helps to frame the conversation a little bit extra layer.
Yeah, why we brought this up.
Yeah, I made a joke about this post that happened on Reddit, where I hang out like in some of the action figure subreddits and a lot of other ones too. And there's one Marvel Legends subreddit where there's this ongoing joke where this person posted a picture of this really easy to find clearance discount bin figure. Ironically enough, it's a Cyclops figure. It's the Age of Apocalypse Cyclops Marvel Legends figure that you can buy online probably for 10 to 15 bucks plus shipping all day long, which is not a rare, expensive Marvel Legends figure. Rare, expensive Marvel Legends figures can be several $100s. So if you said one of those several $100 figures or like some kind of exclusive figure that came out is your grail, that makes sense. Okay, it's hard to find, it's rare. This figure, it's just like, really, that's your grail? And so it became a meme on that subreddit where people talk about that. And that's kind of what inspired us to have this conversation, because I see everybody talking about, oh, that book's a grail. Oh, that book is, that's and oftentimes when that's happening, I'll be honest, I'm like, what? In my head, like, you're talking about a book that anybody could probably buy if they buy any comic books at all. Because in some of these cases, these are like $20 books, and people buy comic books that cost $8 or $9 all the time if they're buying new comic books. I understand money is relative to everybody. Just like $1,000 is a shit ton of money to me, $20 could be a lot of money to somebody else. I totally get that. But if you're buying comic books at all, probably not an insane amount of money that you could not buy 3 or 4 comic books and come up with that kind of amount of money. So that's always strange to me.
Right. So like on my channel, like in January, I had like there's like January, February, March. I think there's 3 videos. It's like first grail of the year, second grail of the year, third grail of the year, and the first grail of the year was the 9.8 first Harley. That was like insane. Like second grail was the 9.4, 9.6 first Wasp. It's just like, but these all occurred due to trade, and they were totally unexpected books. So like I think there's 3 different types of grails. As I was thinking about, I did a lot of thinking about this while I was doing my job today, which I drive and I get a lot of chance to think. I think there's 3 kinds of grails. I think there's a personal grail, like you were saying, like like just like for your own personal reasons. Like you said, maybe it's maybe my second definition kind of rolls into this, because there's personal grail. I think there's a sentimental grail. Like maybe it's something that somebody gave you, or something that that there's a different reason why you like that. Maybe not necessarily the story or the art or anything. It's just there's a sentimentality to it. And then I think there's financial grails. So those are. Okay. So I guess the personal grail will be like your love of a character or something like that, and then the sentimental grail will be something that somebody gave you or something like that. And then again, like the financial grail is my third one. So, and then I think that the subjectivity of grails depends on your finances at the time and where you are in life. Like what is attainable, what's affordable to you. Because I remember being a kid in high school and stuff, and not really even. There were books that I couldn't even imagine owning, like a giant size X-Men back then. I couldn't even imagine owning that. Like now, it's probably not that hard for me to get one via trade. If I wanted to trade some of these books, I could acquire one relatively easily. Yeah. But a lot of those books I don't want to part with. Right. So I think like it depends on like the finances, where you are in life with your finances, and then like your love of a character, like Mickey with Darkhawk, do you really like that character? Then that book is by definition to you a grail, or at least a personal grail, something that you really care about. And then again, to go along with the financial one, like availability is something really scarce, hard to find, like people were saying, is another factor in a grail. But to me, a grail is something that I consider almost unattainable, yet I still strive for and make sacrifices to try to get. Perfect.
Yeah, and I like your different definitions that people might have. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because I was like, well, why are people throwing around this word grail like left and right? And I think they're throwing it around for different reasons. Like there's different reasons why people would throw that around. And so so I have a list of like books that I would consider grails that I am trying or striving for, but like I'm Steppo. First of all, shout out to Steppo, Travis from Comics Limited, and Dan from Dan's X-Men Comics. Those 3 guys have helped me attain a bunch of those books, and wouldn't have them without them.
And also Steppo. So his YouTube is Collecto6, right?
He's on Instagram.
Okay, but so people could follow, because that's just to make sure if people are like, who is that? That's
on Instagram.
Okay.
Travis from Comics Limited on YouTube, and then Dan's X-Men Comics on Instagram also.
I know Steppo often appears on like shows and stuff. Like
Steppo appears a lot on Alan the Comic Collector channel. Yeah. They have a Monday show that they do together every week. So so like Steppo always makes fun of doesn't make fun of me, but he says like, I like your theories. Whatever the nets will catch, whatever fish swim into my net, I'm willing to take those fish. And that's kind of the way I am with a lot of books. You've seen that's my approach to getting books at shows and that kind of thing. And so like my approach for grails is probably the same way. Like the ultimate grail, you were pissing all over my grail, but AF-15 is a big grail for me that I would really like to have someday.
That should be a lot of people's grail. I think like that makes a ton of sense for that to be one,
right?
And I like that list a lot.
Yeah. Journey into Mystery 83, first Thor, big one that I would like to have someday. Hulk 1, Avengers 4, X-Men 1. One that's like, I don't know why. X-Men 12. I really want to get finished.
Well, so quick point about that. I would say X-Men 12 is almost like an honorary. Like, so when you said will other grails change in there? And yeah, X-Men 12 was on my list, and it was on my list originally of books I was going to try to find a low grade copy this year, because it's something that I see in the finish line zone. I don't put it as a grail, but if I were to acquire one of those 3 books, I would probably slot X-Men 12 in. And it's not like I can only have 3 grails. It's just like one of those things where I'm so focused on that mission.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But that's a really good example.
If an X-Men 12 came your way, though, like somebody said, hey, I have one and I'm willing to trade it for some things that you have, you wouldn't turn it down, right? I mean, so
yeah, and just like you're saying, like the nets catching all the fish, like that's a part of what I'm doing too, is like I'm going out and acquiring all these little pieces that I know I can sell off or trade off to acquire a medium-sized piece, and then use the medium-sized pieces to acquire the big fish, essentially. So yeah,
right. So yeah,
I've kind of learned some of that from you, by the way.
Well, thank you. At least hopefully I had some sort of a positive impact. Another honorable mention, Marvel Spotlight 5. That's another one that I really want to get. First Coast Runner. So I may have a lead on one of those. So I may be getting another book that I would consider almost a grail to me. And but at some point, or especially during the boom, a lot of these books seemed like unattainable to me. And like I was getting very disheartened because I am a big Marvel fan and I've always wanted to kind of own most of the major first appearances of those characters. And so so
and I think that ties into it for a lot of people, by the way.
In conclusion to my notes, I have grail the way you want. I don't want to grail shame anybody and say that your grail is not a grail. Even the guy that's saying that the action figure that that was his grail. That maybe it is. Maybe it's something it's hard for him to find, and it was hard for him to come up with the finances to get it. We don't know.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no wrong way to collect. So
definitely. And I'm glad you said that, because that was something I was going to make sure to mention, is that no matter what I say for my personal definition of what a grail is, the problem people get, and I will mock people that I can tell are overusing the term, but only because I have enough context to know that they're not being genuine in the way that I imagine it. So it's very subjective. I understand that. But it's like, if I've seen them say that they have like 50 grails, it's like, well, you're probably saying those are just books you like or books you want. And people, that's part of it, is people have a tendency to use the most explosive language they can to describe, like it's like a Lego song. Everything is awesome, to the point where the word awesome has lost its original definition. Right. I think grail is a little bit like that in some ways, or at least it's on the danger of heading down that path where it's what a grail is or should be by most older collector standards may not be what many younger collectors view a grail as, and that's fine. Honestly, if them overusing the term grail helps them collect more comics and be more interested in comics, cool. I'll take that L. That's totally fine.
Some people, like I would say, like Walking Dead #1 or Invincible #1, that could be a grail to them. They're not super old books, but they're books that people love, and so it's just like,
well, they aren't cheap books either.
They're not cheap books either, but I mean, they are relatively attainable comparative to like an AF-15. So I think that's just kind of an interesting definition for the whole idea. So
Totally. And I think that I don't want to I just kind of want to make sure I underscore that I just because I have a very few number of grails doesn't mean that and just because I said, somebody has 50 grails, there's no like real right number. I guess I mean like I'm seeing somebody say like 50 times in a 2-week period that like, oh, check out this grail, or somebody posted this grail, or and the way they're using that term just sort of it rubs me the wrong way. But it's not like I'm the thought police that has to go after them and say like, that's not the right way to use that term, but it's certainly not how I would use it. And it's something that
the line from Princess Bride. I do not think that means what you are thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It is one of those things where I think the more people use that term, it is kind of watering it down a little bit, which is fine, I guess. At the end of the day, language changes, but I will always bristle a little bit if somebody's calling what is ostensibly a $20 book a grail. However, people can do that. People can have those kinds of grails.
But like we were saying, they can be personal grails or sentimental grails.
Yeah.
They don't have to necessarily. There could be different reasons why they are very important to them. But I think like probably if you got X-Men #1, that's still going to be a grail to you, even if you've already got it.
In a very complicated sense, because I'm picturing that the way if I get X-Men #1, it's going to be a low grade copy. Probably not complete, but for me, it's like it's got to have the cover. I have a couple different like criteria of what I would even spend any money on. So other copies of X-Men 1 might be a grail to me still, because it might be a potential way for me to upgrade and then find a new home for that old copy of X-Men #1 or something. So that's certainly possible. But it just in terms of hey, what's up? But just in terms of like I don't consider, I guess, going back to my comment, for me, grail is more about the journey of trying to acquire it than it is about the actual thing itself. And the hole that it fills as a collector once you have gotten that. And I should explain too, part of the reason I feel that way is because there's a lot of stuff that happens out there where people go after these comic books, and I see it all the time. They acquire them, and then the next day they don't care. That feeling is fleeting. That high of getting that book can be so intense, but 10 minutes later, an hour later, a day later, a week later, whatever, a short period of time later, it's not at the forefront of your mind anymore. And so to me, it's like, don't ever forget how big of a deal this was for you to go after this if you do get it. Like, don't ever forget that, because at the end of the day, as a collector, owning it is great, but you could be Larfleeze from the Orange Lantern Corps just sitting on your pile of goods, and unless you're enjoying them or remembering how important that journey was to you, what is it really worth? Kind of the way I look at it.
And I would even argue that maybe it transfers from being a financial grail or something to becoming more of that personal grail, the memories and stuff attached to it, make it more of that, like, because I have a bunch of those books that I got with friends at Terrificon that I will never forget where I got them, who I was with, and that time spent with those people. So that makes those books even more important to me.
And I do want to go back to a couple of comments here. Sometimes gatekeeping terms is okay. How many keys do we need? Yeah, no, I agree. It's not like we can't do that. I guess I just worry about gatekeeping to the point of pushing out others from enjoying the hobby.
Or shaming people for what they feel or like. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
That's important. I mean, I don't want anybody to feel that way, because I mean, like Karen was saying here, and I do want to get to her comment too. If you have a lot of interest, I think it's reasonable to have a lot of grails. 100% true. You could have an intent. You could have your DC grail, your Marvel grail. You could have your X-Men grail, your Spider-Man grail, your Batman grail. I mean, yeah, 100%. That makes sense. So,
for sure.
Sweet. So I think that it's one of those things where I'm a very like literal person, and I'm a very curmudgeon-y kind of person, very cynical. All those things adding together, to me, it makes sense why I have such a short list. But I would definitely add books to someday, or if I felt like the more I feel like those books are attainable, the more I'd widen that list up for sure. But for me, it's just kind of helping me focus. And I think that's the thing, is if it helps you with how you collect, more power to you in terms of what you consider a grail. I think that the most collectors need to ask themselves more often why they're collecting instead of just worrying about collecting.
Right.
And I think it opens an interesting can of self-reflection worms for people if they do that.
Right.
And it can be a very eye-opening experience.
It can make you take stock of things in a hurry. That's true. I mean, and I think just reflecting on what you were just saying, like the word grail it connotates a quest, right? Like it's, it's something, it's hard to attain. So maybe like you're saying, once you have attained that grail, it's time for the next quest, right? But
yeah, and I think that's a perfectly healthy and fine way to collect. But like, so for me, I have a list of roughly about 150 comics that I'm always like looking for. And it's mostly to remind myself that, oh yeah, when I'm digging through bins, try to look for those books too, because kind of like you, Big B, I'm more just looking for stuff that catches my eye at like the right price. It's unique, it's interesting, it's a key book or whatever. Like I'm looking for those kinds of things. And mostly it's again because I want to pick those things up and I want to move them on down the road to move up to those books. Like that's just the way that collecting is possible for me, to make the hobby fun itself, like you were saying earlier, Big B.
Right. I mean, that's the books I just showed you guys is proof that you can do it. It's just, it takes work. It takes, and I'm kicking myself all the time for not doing enough work to do it. Like I'm always like, oh, I got so much more work I could do and I could be so much more productive. And like,
watching Best Coast Comics is a YouTube grail. I think you
each
did.
New episode is a grail.
I'll allow it.
I love it.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I just want to take a second to say there's so much great conversation that's been going on in chat tonight. I'm awesome. truly happy to see the real grail is having grown the show to a point with Big B to where we have such an amazing interaction going on in chat, to where it's not just a comment of like, hey guys, talk about this, or which is fantastic. I love that. But it's also you guys talking to each other. It's you guys having conversations. It's you guys talking about things that have happened outside this show and having those personal connections. It's great. I love it.
I would say like me and you are only part of the show. Best Coast Comics is a lot of it is you guys talking and being part of the whole world of Best Coast Comics. So we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, 100%. That said, as much as I could keep talking for another hour and a half, I do have to kind of try to wrap up the show. I don't want it to come to a screeching halt. The other best thing that happens here on Best Coast Comics is we have topics that we still have some meat on the bones to get to later on down the road. And this is one of those topics where I think there's more to this that might dovetail into another conversation related to this, like terms in comic books that get used or overused, to Mickey's point about clarification on how comic book terms are used, things like that. There's things there we could talk about. We'd love to hear what you guys think we should talk about. But as you're thinking about next show of Best Coast Comics, which is next Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, or 11 if you're over there on the East Coast, which we love you being here if you are, because I know some of you are, and it's great that you stick around for this, or if you're anywhere in between or anywhere outside those borders. But there are some other great shows I want to mention real fast. Like I said, we're streaming over on the EXP. We're streaming over on Big B's channel. Both of those places, definitely go sub up now. The link is in the description below for both of those channels. The EXP does have Kicking It with Henri is coming on tomorrow night at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. Another great claim show that I highly recommend. I've bought from Henri before. stand-up guy. Definitely recommend checking out his stuff. And then one last thing. This is a special announcement that our producer Jay wanted us to talk about, and I sat in on one of the shows they did this weekend. The producers at the EXP started doing sales shows, claim sale shows. So Sunday at Sunday 12/1, so December 1st at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, which would be 3 Pacific, if I do my math correctly. It's another producer live sales show with Kyle, Jay, and maybe some other folks, which is exciting. I can't wait to see who we're going to get involved in that. And they did already make the thumbnail for it. So wanted to show that off. That's really cool.
Right?
Yeah, Step Bros. So that's fantastic. It's 1:15 a.m. here, and I work at 7. See, that's the kind of commitment that I'm seeing. Yeah, and the other thing too is we love to have guests on talking about guests, and I know we have some of the guests that have been on the show in the audience. We have Swaglehouse, who I was just talking about his Sanity books coming out. Stay tuned. We're going to figure out the plan. We're going to do a giveaway for one set that he sent. I'm going to send another set to Big B so he gets a chance to read it. I'm looking forward to reading it. There's some cool extras. I'm going to give away some of the extras as well, I think, with that giveaway. So stay tuned. We'll figure out how we're going to do that exactly. And then on top of that, we've had Comic Tropes, who was in the audience. We've had him on the show. So if there's people that you want to come on the show, go message them and say, hey, you should show up on that Best Coast Comic show, and tell them why they're wrong about grails and why they're wrong about keys, and how awesome they are, or whatever you want to tell them. Or we'd love to hear about your suggestions about that as well for people that we should have on. I know we've talked to some people that we're going to try to get on.
Just sound off in the comments after the show and let us know thoughts on grails, like what your personal grails are. We'd love to read some of that stuff back next show and talk to people about it too. So that'd be awesome. And and Karen, thanks for stopping by. I haven't seen you in the chat before, so that's awesome. But you probably just lurk, right? That's what's going on.
So many people. The cool thing to do is just to hang out in the chat and not talk until you start talking, and then it's addictive, and then all you can do is comment all show long. You hang out here all night, like all these fine people have, and talk to us in chat. The other thing I did want to say is here in the United States, it is Thanksgiving week. Thanksgiving holiday is coming up on Thursday, of course. So be safe. We all know that there's things that happen around Thanksgiving that are unfortunate, that people make mistakes. So make sure you're safe this Thanksgiving weekend coming up here, and do things like properly cook your turkey, call the Butterball hotline if you need to, wash all your cutting boards. And what I'm really saying is don't drink and drive, please. There's no excuse for it these days. That's kind of the big point I want to leave people with. Have a nice, safe, happy celebration with your families, and don't fight too much.
Thermometers break, don't eat the turkey.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. And I hear you. I was gonna say, I hear you. Luckily my wife watches after our little one while I do the show. She's nice to do that, but that's why I have to go, because I can't abuse that too long.
Just say preview for next week.
Oh yeah. So did you get confirmation on that, by the way, that she's good to go? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we will have the rumors of her disappearance are much exaggerated. We will have Madam Blaster on next week. There was the suffice it to say, she wasn't feeling up to be on the show for health reasons, and that's totally fine. She had some stuff going on, so we are rescheduled that show. So we will have Madam Blaster, who is a talented artist, a talented cosplayer, and a talented sculptor, and a really cool person to talk to. We'll have her on the show next week on Best Coast Comics on Monday night. So definitely come back for that show so we can get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with her.
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome,
everybody.
And speaking of awesome co-hosts, I'm thankful for my co-host Big B McFly, the comic book guy.
I'm thankful for you, buddy. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that would be way different if I had not met you. So I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you too, dude. And appreciate everybody watching, everybody in chat. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.